Welcome to Simcast, a podcast brought to you by the Society for Imaging Informatics and Medicine.
Hello, Simcast listeners. Recently, we caught up with Dr. Nathan Bumbarger and Dr. Cirilo Araujo to talk about the recent Hackathon project, which is Hyponym reporting. It's a very intriguing concept that promises to make radiology reporting easier and more efficient at the same time. Nathan Bumbarger is a radiologist with a passion for computer gaming technology and efficiency. He is a future imaging informatics and abdominal imaging fellow at the University of Maryland starting in July 2023. He is currently working at Andrews Air Force Base and Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, and currently holds the rank of Major in the U.S. Air Force. Cirilo Araujo is a senior member with tenure at the Department of Diagnostic Imaging and Interventional Radiology at Moffitt Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida. He is a professor at the Department of Oncologic Sciences, MDC 44, Moore-Sinai College of Medicine, University of South Florida. Our guests both asked that we read a small disclaimer to say that their views are of their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of their employers, affiliates, or any entity they represent. Thank you and enjoy listening to this episode. All right, Cirilo and Nathan, great to have you with us here today. Maybe I can start asking you to briefly describe your Sim Hackathon experience for any of our audience members who perhaps have not been familiar with the hackathon before. Cirilo, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Thank you, Mohanan, for inviting us for podcast. I was delighted with the hackathon because that was my first one that I ever participated, and it was a very good experience. I would say I was invited by someone else that had previous experience with the hackathon, but I didn't have any experience before. And my experience was outstanding. I had to learn all the process, and being part of it and being a participant was extremely satisfying to get a project up running and having it, presented to your audience.
How about you, Nathan?
Yeah, thank you for the question and thank you for the invite to the hackathon. The question was that was my experience? I thought it was a very good experience, especially for somebody new to informatics. I found out about the hackathon through my program director while I was a fourth-year resident, and it was something that I wasn't so sure about. During the introduction for the hackathon, it was really apparent that I didn't have to have prior programming experience. I didn't need to have my own app developed or anything like that. And when they went through the list of projects, there was a project that really caught my attention that I felt really attached to. And so the thing that got me in the door was that project, and I jumped onto it and worked with a number of other people. And that's really what got me interested in the project and in the hackathon. I was really, really happy. It was spaced out as well, so that it was really nice to be able to do my clinical work and then, take a break, do the hackathon, and then go back and be able to do my day. So I was able to fit that time in while I was still a resident.
So did you two know each other before this project, or did you just meet and start in on things? Like, how did this happen?
So actually, we met during the hackathon. Nathan and I think we shared same interest with the same theme that we presented at the hackathon. And we had a friend in common, Dr. Folio, and he knew Nathan. And he told me about, Nathan is working on the same kind of project that you're doing. Why don't you guys get together? And there's this awesome program that you can participate, which was the Sim Hackathon. And that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the hackathon brings people together and connects people. And I got to know Cirilo during the hackathon. We would work on the team projects together, and then kind of the culmination of the project is where we started to just work more on the same project. But it was really awesome just to get to know Cirilo during the project and kind of stay connected with him a little bit afterwards, because we have similar interests and we continue to share that interest in something that's I'm very passionate about, and that's with the dictation and with basically the project that we worked on for the hackathon. So it was really awesome to get together and get to know each other.
This is absolutely great. I think this is the ultimate Sim story, not just the hackathon, because I feel like that's true for myself, being connected to Sim the first time. I'm pretty sure it's true for Prasant as well. Let's get right into it. So you two worked on a pretty cool project. It was called Project Hyponym. Nathan, maybe we start with you this time. Walk us through your project, and then Cirillo, feel free to weigh in afterwards.
Yeah, thank you. Hyponyms have to do with basically keywords in a PowerScribe report. In the sense of radiology reports, you have structured reports. One style to do radiology reporting, and free dictating is another style that people do radiology reporting. With structured reports, a lot of times you have different subject headers or titles, such as the abdomen or the chest, or even in musculoskeletal realm, you have MRI shoulder, and you'll have different sections within that. Structured reporting aims to communicate the results and the findings in the same sections for providers, so that when a provider reads a report, they're not reading a giant paragraph, or they know where to find the liver section or whatnot. But the structured reporting can be a little bit tedious as well. One of the things that Cirillo's team had already kind of worked on with the hyponyms was having to do with focused attention as well. And so one of the things that is not so great about structured reporting is the need to continually check your PowerScribe as you're dictating to stay in the correct section. Cirillo, do you want to talk about that a little bit as well, what you guys were doing before?
Yeah, in a nutshell, you explained very well, Nathan. The idea is to populate all those sections without you looking at the report. So what our team was able to do was to create a dictionary of words that we would call it trigger or anchor words that would, wherever you dictate that in your free dictation box, that paragraph or that phrase would populate the right section in the report, and without you needing to check. So just based on the words, you would have a correct report and populating all the sections with the trigger words, which we call hyponym. That's why we use the word hyponym report on our project.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that as well, the hyponym, it is something that is not well understood for radiologists. To my knowledge, there is no publicly released database of hyponyms available. I've looked in the past, I've seen some intro videos on a feature in PowerScribe called findings mode. That's where you go in and actually dictate your findings. And then when you've gone through and finished dictating your report, you'll end the statement with like apply findings. It goes into the report and then it populates the results and the impression if you dictate your impression into the findings mode. And that's the beauty of it, is you can use these keywords for the program to basically read your sentences. And then it takes those keywords it finds and it puts them in the hopefully the correct sections, or the sections you've assigned it for the radiology report. It's a huge time saver in some ways, that you can just focus on your images. You don't have to focus on your radiology report until you're ready to sign it. Then you can review it and sign it. It changes the way that you dictate certain studies. It's very, very powerful for the multi-system studies. And you can go from the kidney section, for example, to the liver section, back to the kidney section. There's no problem. The program does not discriminate.
Yeah, I trained at a place where we had transcription. So I was used to free dictation, and then a human went through it, typed it all up. So switching over to PowerScribe, one of the problems was like things with like pancreatitis, because that material goes everywhere, right? The enzymes just eat through different fat planes, body planes, like it just goes through all the different categories. It can go all the way into the pericardium, down the rest. So when you're talking about it, do you put the pseudocyst in with pancreatitis, or do you put it in with, say, like abnormal fluid collections, if you've got that? Or, you know, you've got a splenic artery pseudoaneurysm. Do you put that with the pancreatitis, or do you put it with the vascular section? So now suddenly, like, all the associations that you normally put together with a disease, instead of keeping them together, now have to get parsed out across the report, which, you know, again, the power of structured reporting, we all know this. So it's nice to be able to, as one of my attendings who was a journalist would say, tell the story of the patient, and then have the computer do the work to parse everything to the correct parts. Why do you guys think that not many people are really using this findings mode?
I can go first and explain a little bit. One of the things is how you're trained. if you train one way, you're going to stick with it, right? The way you were trained. And then it's difficult to change it, of course, the way you dictated it later on and try to use something really new. So I think one of the reasons would be the change. And people are afraid to change that and maybe not being able to adjust to that new change. Anyway, so that's one. The second is, if you're not never trained, nobody taught you how to read with Hyponym, it can be really daunting because you need to create a dictionary and the keywords they don't provide you. The software we have, there is a structure already there, but you need to add the hyponyms, which are the trigger words. That's what our team did. So we created a hyponym for different modalities and we imported to the dictation system that would work for most people. But still, you need a little bit of training, and Nathan can talk more about that, and a little bit of polishing how you dictate. Like you just said, if you have some process that are multi-organ and multi-anatomical, there are ways to get around that. How you can maybe decrease your section instead of creating multiple sections in the abdomen, just create one section and then talks about it. And we will also apply that to that section that you want, or you can just identify where that process started to begin with. Maybe started in the pancreas. You describe it in the pancreas, and the other ones you just say something involved by the process described above, or something like that.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's a number of barriers. Even just last week, I was speaking with another radiologist who's fairly informatics savvy, who does different PowerScribe templates, works on his PowerScribe templates, and is developing basically templates for the institution and the organization he's working at. And when I asked him about the Hyponym reporting, he said that he was a little nervous to get involved with it. And one of the things that people are nervous about is not having a database of words or not having a collection. And then on top of it, potentially this could slow down your dictation as you get going. So what I think people get really nervous about is the unknown and slowing down dictation and not knowing how things work. In some ways, what Cirillo's team and I were able to perform was we kind of reverse engineered and we figured out something in PowerScribe that isn't well known. There's not much in the manual about it, but we figured out a lot about how it works. And some of the new products even coming out by Nuance and PowerScribe utilize this information. They help to create the reports. And so this is something that's pretty cutting edge that we're doing. It's already in the existing program, but again, an underutilized resource. And so with the findings mode, you're able to really identify a way to dictate faster, more efficiently, and put it in the report where it's needed. And that's really something very powerful. One of the reasons people can't use it very well is one, lack of knowledge. People don't know about findings mode. In PowerScribe, I asked tons of staff radiologists, hey, have you seen this button? Findings mode is in everybody's report. And they've never clicked it. They've never tried it. And so if you don't have somebody that knows how to use this feature, who's never seen it, you'll never use the feature. It's something that I think is a barrier. And one of the things that Cirillo and I have been trying to do, and we've worked on a bit, is that database. Once the database is established, you can start to use findings mode. But even then, you could do something kind of funny with it. If you don't understand how it works, you could put like hepatorenal. For example, where does that go? If I talk about a hepatorenal shunt or hepatorenal syndrome, if you don't understand how the program works, that might end up in the section that you don't understand. You can cheat that system in a number of ways. One, by knowing that PowerScribe actually reads from left to right. So when you type a sentence out or when you dictate into findings mode and you talk about the chest first and then you want to talk about assist, you know that that section will go in the chest section. And so figuring out some of these things and troubleshooting and then using PowerScribe and using findings mode and then editing the report is really something that it's how people will learn how to use it. And then to another point, to earlier, about talking about how, you'll have pancreatic pseudocyst or you'll have all these findings which extend between organs and things like that. There's a number of things to say. One is that let's say you do have something that you don't want to end up everywhere else in the report and you're in findings mode. Well, you can take that section, you can cut it, and you can paste it into the report just the way you want it if you had to in those situations where you need to do it. Because you can't always put things where you want them through findings mode if it's going to be very complex. You might need to free dictate parts of this or cut and paste it into the report. But then the other thing is you could tease your sentence with keywords to put it in the right report. You could talk about the pancreatic fluid collection extenuating between all of these different organ spaces, and it should still end up in the pancreas section. And so there are ways to go around this to cheat the system, to kind of pre-program your own dictation in order to basically use this system effectively.
Being a PowerScribe user myself, I think another reason why is that the system sometimes doesn't understand you as well as it should. I've been here at the current institution for the last 4 years, and suddenly my dictations go from, as an MSK radiologist, no fracture or dislocation to no fracture or desiccation. I haven't said desiccation ever. So I have no idea why it's starting to do this suddenly. I know in the past saying condyle, it would put condyles plural, or epicondyle, it would put epicondyles plural. So if we can't even get it to work correctly during structured report mode, trying to switch into findings mode where it's more complex, if you will, that adds an additional barrier to how well it will work. So, Mohanad, you had another question.
I do. So from a non-clinical user who can only complain about his voice recognition by his personal smart assistant, I'm actually curious. So for the radiologists in the crowd who might be listening to this podcast, how would they go about taking advantage of the work that you, Cirillo, and Nathan have been doing? Maybe, Cirillo, we start with you this time.
Thank you for that question. I think that's a crucial thing, that we're doing this to improve physicians' efficiency, also improve, outcome with your reports being more accurate. I think one way would be to make a database available to be used freely, and you can kind of download that database of Hyponym and import it into your dictation software. So you start using it and tinkering with the report and then learning how that works. So that's one thing that we put it together, our team put it together and made it already available on the website to start using it. Maybe Nathan can talk a little bit about how he would think other practicing radiologists would start using this process as well.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think there's a lot. And part of what we need to do is really make a database available for people to do. And then on top of that, the next thing is start to educate radiologists, especially even junior radiologists, but you can do it with others, with how do you create these templates and how can you get your hands on a template? And, when you're using the Hyponym reporting, there are 1,000 ways you can do something, and the people are going to have different styles. And so the words I use might not be the same words that somebody else uses. And so how do they edit their reports when things don't go in? One of the things that we should explain is that when you're using findings mode and you're using a Hyponym kind of powered template, there are certain statements that you make that might not go into your template. And what happens is those stay in findings mode as sentences, okay? And so they are there for you to cut and paste or to apply the findings into the report in the section that you need them. And so if you're getting this happening and people don't know how to potentially quickly edit their reports, it becomes a little bit more burdensome. One of the things that radiologists can do when they're using this type of reporting is they can edit their reports as they're dictating. They can right-click on their reports on PowerScribe. They can edit their report and they can add a keyword if it's something that they're only going to say in the spine, like anterior listhesis or spondylolisthesis. Those are things I'm not going to say about the kidney or other sections. Those are things you can add to your report to increase the accuracy of your Hyponym report. And then there's words as well that maybe they're in the wrong section and you find out that you put lingula in the cardiac section or something. And so you need to know how to find the report and how to edit it. A number of key things for creating these reports is how you start off by making a report. When I first got my radiology reports, we went from a talk system to a PowerScribe system. Nobody had PowerScribe templates. And so all of my fields were labeled field 1, field 2, field 3, etc. And so that's another problem in the template is you need to have like a lungs label, you need to have a pancreas label and all of these things. And so not just using Hyponym reporting, but really it's just how to create good reports in PowerScribe. And once you've got a good report in PowerScribe, how do you enhance that? And one of the big enhancements is with Hyponym reporting. And that is something that I think that we can offer others. We can tease it. We can increase efficiency. You can increase basically eye tracking on your actual images. And so you spend less time looking at your PowerScribe. You spend more time dictating your study, more time with your eyes on the patient, which I don't think there's a radiologist out there who would argue that that's not what they want to do. They want to look at the patient, They want to free dictate. They want an accurate dictation. But, they can do that. And when they're done dictating and looking at the patient, they can briefly go back through, put in any findings that don't hit their hyponyms and don't enter the report, and then they can check for accuracy. And once you understand how to use these templates, the accuracy can get better and better. Like my reports are better today than they were in June. How about you, Cyril? Are your reports better today than they were back before we did this project?
Yeah, Nathan, I'm glad that you brought that up because today I'm 100% hyponym dictating. And actually the system corrects me. If I mispronounce the word or it's wrong that the system doesn't recognize, it doesn't place the word anywhere else or the phrase or the paragraph. And he waits for me to decide what to do with that. And then I correct that at the end. And then the report actually is more accurate at the end.
That's really neat that you guys are making use of this very underutilized aspect. But I kind of have to wonder, like, it sounds like, what you guys have been doing with the hyponyms is, creating kind of a data dictionary. And what's the difference between what you're doing and, say, something like Radlex or, other lexicon or ontologies?
I can explain. Our hyponym is designed for the report, not for ontology in general, but for the style of reporting. And there are some styles, as Nathan said, each individual one has their own style, their own wording. However, there is a overall, style that usually is in the American system, how you were trained and how you generate your reports. Like, for example, in the structured format. And I would say to you, maybe in the beginning, you can apply that to different subspecialties. For example, I found it very useful for multi-system like body imaging, very helpful. Maybe with breast or MSK, where you have almost like a synoptic type of reporting, might not be as useful because you don't have as long phrases or paragraphs. It's more like very short, but I still think that you can apply that to some degree to populate the reports like that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Radlex and those systems, they offer different tools. And one of the things that you want to be careful with hyponym reporting is not a 1,000 word database throughout your report. It's really, you can hit root words. You can do a number of things. For example, you can do a root word for hepato, and hepato will cover a number of different systems, or hepat, H-E-P-A-T. And that will, again, cover a number of words that you might say that you didn't anticipate needing in your hyponym report. The other thing that's really important to talk about with hyponym reporting is the fact that you need to not use general words. You should not put mass in any section. You should not put nodule in any section. These might show up in different areas throughout the body. And so you have to be careful about how specific you get with your reports. For example, another one, if you're doing a cancer reporting and you have like a renal cell carcinoma metastases, if you're going to say, metastases, that could be a number of spots. You should not put a word like metastases in hyponym reporting. It should be section or organ specific. If you have sections in your report that are like retroperitoneum or mesentery, you could definitely put words in that cover that will populate the section that the providers will be looking potentially to find out what is growing, what isn't growing, if you have mixed response to treatment. All of these things are very important, and that is going to go back into how do you design a report, where these go. But again, the value of hyponym reporting and the enhancement of the reports, I think, is there. And if you're reading my report and I put information in the same spot each time, it is less likely you're going to miss something important that's buried in the body of a bulky, boxed out report. And it's also unlikely I'm going to miss one of my sections because I have structured reporting to remind me to go back through and review each of the sections when I go back through. So again, I think Radlex has its purpose, and some of the other databases for reporting that the ACR has are not as up to date, maybe, as what we're doing with PowerScribe reporting, which is much more common for what I've seen.
And the other thing is it can adapt. I want to add to Nathan's comment is that the hyponym, actually, you can adjust it to adapt to your style. So let's say I don't use mass in the in my reports. However, I use a lot of renomass. Actually, you can create a hyponym that is a two word or even a phrase. And that when you say that two words or the phrase will populate the area that you designated it to begin with. So you can actually work with the software and the dictionary to fit your style.
This is great. I want to pivot for a moment and wanted to ask, I heard PowerScribe today a lot. Do you know if this actually works with other reporting voice recognition software as far as you know? Maybe Cirillo, you can take this one.
Yeah, I've heard about other softwares, voice recognition softwares, but I don't know if they probably have the technology, but I don't know if they have that available for the radiologists. So I'm not aware. I think in the US, way more than half of radiologists, they use the Dragon, but within PowerScribe 360 or PowerScribe Ambient, the newer one, PowerScribe 1, which both of them offer this capability, but other, I'm not so sure if they have it already in their software.
I'm with Cirillo on that. I'm not sure if there are other capabilities. I think that from a programming standpoint, it is something that they would have had to put into their program. It's some kind of find and replace function within the program. And, just to piggyback on that as well, one of the nice things that Nuance or PowerScribe did do, and I'm not a representative for them, I don't speak for Nuance or anything like that. But, one of the nice things they did do is that when I transfer a section from one report, I copy it from one section of a report to another, is it keeps all of the hyponyms that I had in my prior section and it puts it in the new section. And so I'm not redoing all of this work each time I make a new report. I'm potentially just copying and pasting it into the new report, and it comes over with all of the updated features that I have in that report already. So it's not even difficult to create new reports once you have this up.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I was wondering, how might interested listeners contribute or even support your project? Nathan, let's start with you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Cirillo and I have teased doing more of an educational outreach with this project, with looking at just educating people about how you could use hyponym reporting. I have not done much with him yet. Cirillo has, I believe, a Google slide and Google website where we've put some of our information, and that's what we use for our hackathon project to help present and to help show some of the capabilities, where we have some instructional videos. But I don't have much to say right now as how my project can be supported, other than be interested in learning more about your craft and, be interested in reaching out to us. I mean, I would be happy to get emails or to discuss further about hyponyms, and a number of places we could do that, but I'll talk with the hosts about that in the future.
Yeah, I think what the listener can do is first get in contact with that findings mode on PowerScribe. Maybe they can read the instructions on the findings mode. I think if you just Google findings mode, you can get a lot of information that they can read about it and they can understand. It's probably 5 to 10 pages to go through only on the technology. And then, okay, this is how it works. Now I need a database. So where can we start? Now, Nathan and us, we work together to build that initial database of hyponyms so they can go online on our website. I think the website is hyponym.us, and they can go there and there's instructions on how to start downloading and uploading to your PowerScribe software. Probably they will need to contact their IT to help them with the process.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I would like to ask Nathan, followed by Cirillo, for any closing thoughts you may have today. We're extremely grateful for your time, and anything next you see happening for hyponym reporting.
Closing thoughts. I think, again, this is a really exciting project that we worked on. I think that be brave and be willing to get involved in things that you're not sure how it's going to go or get roped into. I joined the hackathon reluctantly, but it just wasn't sure. And I think that, look for the next hackathon. I think this is just potentially a springboard. I didn't know I was this passionate about an issue that was important to other people. I was passionate about Hyponym reporting, but I didn't have instruction. I didn't have anybody I knew that used it. And so it was awesome to be connected with another team and build a team actually and talk about this and be involved and learn some new tools. I learned how to use Slack. I'd never used Slack in the past. I learned more about building websites from Cirillo that I didn't realize was so easy in some ways. But then we learned how to make, some videos and work together. I thought it was really awesome. I never met Cirillo before the project, and we got involved, and Cirillo continues to kind of push this work forward. He's been to more conferences about it. It's really an amazing opportunity to get involved with something that maybe you don't understand, or maybe, oh my gosh, it was a project that I was working on that other people were working on at the same time. So the fates aligned all at the same time. So I really think that, be passionate about your craft. I spend most of my day dictating as a radiologist, but nobody ever taught me how to create reports. And I think this is it's an opportunity for not just resident education, but radiology education about how can I be better at my craft? How can I be more efficient? And how can I spend more time with my patients than I do on my reports?
Yes, the same way. I think I would add that for hyponym reporting, it's very important to get the word out there so people will first know about it, know there is such a thing, that they can start already using it, and that's why we brought it to the RSNA. We presented it as an abstract. We brought it to the Society of Advanced Body Imaging, and we presented that as well. And we actually was selected to go to the Three Pearls presentation as well, so people would learn about it. And we even presented to the Shark Tank at the Society of Advanced Body Imaging, which was a very cool experience, getting to involve the residents as well, the trainees, so they get used to it as well. But I think the next thing for hyponym reporting is or even PowerScribe, to make it more available, more easy to use, and making the dictionary or the word database or the hyponym database more available for people to start using it.
This is really good. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Simcast has been brought to you by the Society of Imaging Informatics and Medicine. Please visit our website at siim.org for more information and educational content, including webinars and an archive of prior episodes. Please follow us on Twitter at sim_tweets. Thank you to our listeners for your continued support.